And welcome to the MMAngst Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Cohn. Joining me tonight, not today, because it isn't night, and it is... we're doing this pretty late in the week, aren't we, Alejandro?
Yeah. I didn't even go to the police, though.
You son of a bitch. We could have done this yesterday.
I know, like, fuck. Shit, some academic shit fell on my lap, and I had to tend to that. I haven't even gone there. It's for passport stuff, like, it's nothing crazy, but you have to, like, go to the police and, like, get, like, a file that says that your passport has been lost, you're looking for another one. It's a bunch of shit that you have to do.
Not gonna lie, you could probably talk about this for 20 minutes and it'd be more interesting than UFC 247.
What if we crack jokes?
Well, Bilal's not here because he's sleeping because it's like 3 a.m. by him.
Yeah.
UFC 247 is coming up this weekend, and it's headlined by John Jones versus Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
This will either be a Johnson Horiguchi moment, or it'll be a Cruz Garbrandt moment, although with way less skill and intrigue involved. Like just way shittier version of both of those.
Okay, so how does it go? Like the guy that has not lost against the guy that never loses?
Pretty much, it's the guy. Like was Horiguchi also undefeated when he fought Johnson? I think he was, or maybe he had one loss. Maybe he had one loss. Check, because he's got like 2 or 3 now. Yeah, he had one loss like earlier in his career, and it was a majority decision. So he's 15-1 when he fought Johnson, and then Garbrandt was undefeated as well.
Yeah,
so
it feels too early, man. It feels too early.
Right. So it's either gonna actually be too early, like Horiguchi versus Johnson, or it'll be like it feels too early, but it's not with Garbrandt Cruz. But also, like I said, the shittiest of shitty. This is like the ultimate bootleg version of those fights. It's just that can't phone into the theater and is selling it for $2 on the street.
I've seen that. I've seen that before. Like it feels like what's his name? Reyes has like the base skill set than one would need to fight Jones effectively, but like he still has weird things, like he struggles like grappling exchanges against the cage. Like he does get taken down. I mean, he's very good at getting back up, but he struggles in the beginning, and then he's not really good chasing, is it? Like, I mean, he literally chases. I mean, I'm wrong. Like he chases. Like he doesn't cut off the cage really effectively. Man, like he's better at throwing punches backward than he's going forwards.
That's true. He's a better counterpuncher. He's a counterpuncher. He is a counterpuncher, and he is a leg and body. He is a very left side heavy attack with his legs, like his rear leg. He's a southpaw. First of all, I'd like to point out that the intrigue that we have for this fight is clearly demonstrated by Alejandro forgetting Dominic Reyes' first name.
I don't know. I thought in my mind, I don't know why. Like my excuse is his very common last name, but I thought his last name was for some reason Rodriguez. And I kept thinking of him.
Wow, you are cutting out. You cut out completely right there.
Ah, shit. Okay, what was the last thing you heard from me?
No. Say what you were responding to me.
Okay.
The whole response.
Yeah. So like Rodriguez to me. I thought his last name was Rodriguez, but he said Reyes. It's so common, by the way. Like Rodriguez is so common.
So I want to respond to your chasing thing. So I'm like watching the OSP fight actually as we speak. And while he does do some chasing, it tends to be when he feels like he's safer. When he was like after like kind of like hurting OSP, he actually like didn't cut off the cage so much as just like stay in front of him. Like it wasn't a chase. It was like he did kind of sidestep he did give room to OSP to move, but also he kept him in front of him. Like he stayed parallel to him, I would say, or adjacent to him for a large portion of those circular movement exchanges. But again, OSP was hurt and not really moving that much. But
no, but you're correct. Like in general, Reyes is very good at realigning himself. He's like, especially in the cage for some reason.
Correct.
Like he knows how to find like his opportunities to strike. Like he's very like.
Well, he's counterpuncher. That's what makes counterpunchers good, is that they're able to, when they're good at it, I mean, is that they're able to time the shots that they need, correctly to land on their opponents. And something that I want to point out is that Reyes is not especially adept or interested in pressuring. An example of that is that if you watch the Chris Weidman fight, he comes out of the gate with the right idea of things. Chris Weidman is a pressure fighter, or his preference is to pressure. And the interesting thing about it is that Dominic had the right idea in the sense of, I'm going to pressure Chris and force him to be uncomfortable right away, especially it's his first move up to light heavyweight and all that stuff. He immediately he misses his punch and Chris Weidman ducks under for a takedown, gets against the cage. They have the whole sequence. Dominic defends well. And again, like you said, he's good at realigning. I want to point out a very specific moment, is that when Chris Weidman was trying to pull him off the cage and was able to almost get to his back and started to kind of rotate Dominic around, Dominic was able to kind of turn his back so that it bounced off, so that it caught itself on the cage. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it looked like it was from that.
I think you're right. Like
it's he's
really good at it. Like he's very quick at it. And he's also really good in mid exchanges. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off. Let me say this. Like he's really good in the pullback. Like in boxing, like it's very simple. Like you have this very basic set of motions. Like but also just moving after he's done with the combination, like throwing a 1-2. Like he pulls back really well. Like he does a boxer thing where he either rolls with it, like he adds a roll and then he gets out of the way, or he steps back with jabs. Right? He's really good at that. You don't see it a lot in MMA, and I think Luke Thomas mentioned this too, by the way. So credit to the guy because he mentioned it. So he's really good at this. Like these very little things that John Jones struggles with that he just doesn't do. Reyes does them very well. But in order for him to get to the place where he has to do these things, John Jones has to come at him first. And that's why we have a problem, because I think John Jones is going to realize really quickly that, I don't want to play in that sandbox. I'm going to stay outside. I'm going to snipe him, and I'm going to just stink this fight up, and I'm just going to be very low activity. And
I don't think that's going to work.
Chase me.
That's not going to work because, one, Jones is not actually that good of a striker. He's really not. Like he has.
He's good enough, but he's good enough.
Right, but that's light heavyweight talk. So the value of being good enough. No. I'm not saying he's super. Look, again, we're talking about in the context of light heavyweight, but at the same time, like yes, he's beating light heavyweights or blown up middleweights.
I mean, he wouldn't survive in the lightweight division if he was.
He would not even be top 10.
Skills.
No. He would not even be top 10. I'm not even going to joke. I don't think he'd even be top 10.
He wouldn't. No, but he would not be.
Yeah, no,
he would not.
Look, let's be realistic. Dan Hooker would fuck him up.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah, like that's not even really like something that should be debated from a skill for skill standpoint. Like Dan Hooker's a better fighter. But that's not the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is that Reyes is a counterpuncher, but he's also he prefers to be kind of like and he's on the outside. He fights all at the outside. There's a lot of space in between him and his opponents. He throws a lot of kicks, leg kicks in particular, which I think are going to come in handy against Jones. The other thing is that he doesn't really fight deep in combinations. He's not a pocket boxer, right? And something that is important that I think is important and that he is going to employ is that he needs to employ, I think, is Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, both of them, whenever they kind of came forward with combinations, Jones did his usual stiff arm and try to back away. The problem is that eventually you can hit him, especially if you're long enough. Reyes is not the longest guy Jones would be facing with a 77-inch reach, but he's got enough length, I would say, that he could tag Jones and get past that like stiff arm.
Okay, but answer me this question then.
Sure.
How will he do that if he is not like effective enough? Because he's not good
what
at
do you mean by
cutting.
Enough?
He's not good at cutting people off.
You don't need to be with John Jones. He always retreats. He retreats linearly.
Yeah, but for example, do you think he's going to lean in on leg kicks? Like the leg kicks that I remember from Reyes are usually a response to something someone is doing. Like when they're coming in, he kicks the.
No, he does it when he's on the outside too. In fact, he does it a lot, like to draw reactions.
I don't remember.
I just watched him do one, and he drew a reaction.
Okay, I take your word for it.
He really is good at that pullback, at that step away left counter, like that where he circles off to his left.
Yeah.
To his left as his opponent's coming in, and then counters with that left hand. But again, what? Here's the thing: Reyes is going to do is probably going to let John come towards him, like move forward. If John tries to like play at range, I don't think it's going to necessarily be an uneven fight in the slightest. I think Reyes is probably going to be able to kick with John, and it's not like John is the most powerful kicker either.
No,
the problem is that when Reyes comes forward with those combinations, or when he's able to draw punches from John and counter him, I think that's where we're going to see the difference in this fight. Now, there's another thing that you mentioned is that like he's not necessarily the best at avoiding the takedown initiations, I would say, or like he'll get taken down by lesser wrestlers. The problem is that A, like you said, he's really good at getting up, and B, Jones's clinch is really regressed. Jones as a fighter has severely regressed. I highly recommend you guys listen to the Fight Sites podcast. They did a very in-depth hour-long breakdown, essentially, of this, both the fighters and this fight. And they really broke down exactly what the issues are with John and his game these days, and why he's more beatable than ever at this point, because he lacks a lot of the tools and the aggression, and essentially even his athleticism has gone down. And I would agree with that statement that he's not as athletic as he used to be.
That's bold.
I mean,
no. Well, the good thing about it is that it's a very specific claim, and we're gonna see in this fight. If he doesn't do it in this fight,
I don't think it's this fight in particular.
No, but
at the last three fights and see that he is less physical and less athletic than he used to be. I think that's a very fair statement to make, especially when you look at how he handled his early UFC run. This is a guy who completely not just out-wrestled Ryan Bader, but absolutely sunned Ryan Bader. And we've never seen anyone do that to Ryan ever, both before and after.
Do you think it has to do with him being clean now? Like he's taking so many fucking drug tests.
I don't think he's clean. Number one.
No, but he's taken so many drug tests.
I don't think it matters. First of all, I don't subscribe to the idea that being clean from USADA at this point means anything. Number one. Number two, he's failed 8 tests at this point. Just because they're allowing him to fight, they're still finding those quote unquote pulsings. So I'm not really.
From what I've seen,
they still found them.
From what I've seen, like they've tested a shit ton.
They're still testing him. Doesn't mean that
they haven't.
Like they're not canceling the fights anymore because of the pulsing. So I don't know if he's had a pulsing reading recently, but I don't believe he's clean. I'm sorry. I don't think that. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough. But if you don't believe he's clean now, then nobody is clean. At least now. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't agree with that. I think the people who pass tests. I think the people who pass the tests that are getting paid 10-10 or 20-20, those people are clean because they can't afford designer drugs. I don't think if you're making millions of dollars or just an absurd amount of money, there's a very strong chance you're just purchasing steroids that are not really detectable necessarily, or incredibly difficult to detect to the point where it's not really likely you're going to get caught. But if you're a UFC debutant or you're making 20 grand at best, I'm not really going to assume you're able to afford that shit. But that's a different discussion, I would say.
Right?
The main point I'm trying to say is that I would say he's clearly less interested in utilizing that insane athleticism. We have not seen him pull a Shogun style of performance in 5-6 years. So I think his prime run was like that initial run. Excuse me. That 2011 to 2013-14 run, up until that first Cormier fight. And let me put it this way: he TKO'd Daniel Cormier in that second fight. I was more impressed with his first fight.
Yeah, me too. He was actually losing that fight, the second one.
Yeah, he was. So I think it's very important to kind of like notice that there's a big difference between the fighter of the last 3 fights and the fighter of the previous 5-year run he had. Neither one was the most technically skilled striker, but the difference is that we saw a John Jones in those fights who was not only willing but able to wrestle and grapple and clinch, and he used them in virtually every fight, with the exception of probably the Rampage and Machida, the Rampage fight, really, and Evans. He didn't really wrestle Rashad, so he didn't use it in a couple of fights, and the Gustafsson fight he couldn't, and we saw how that went the first one. So I think it's very important to kind of know that there's that fighter with those tools has not shown himself to exist in a really long time. So realistically, I know that Reyes should not be the favorite by any means, by any stretch.
But you don't expect Jones to use his advantages there.
I don't really know if he has them anymore. I think the only advantage we know for a fact he has is when he's on top. And if Reyes is on bottom, I think we know that John would be able to show his advantage in that position. But is he necessarily he's never been a good shot takedown artist, and his clinch wrestling, Anthony Smith was giving him trouble in the clinch. Anthony Smith is not an especially good clinch fighter either, and I mean, he's a really nice guy, but again, I'm not really so convinced. I don't think this will be a good fight. I want to make that so clear.
No, I agree with it.
I think this will be a very ugly, grinding fight. I think it'll probably end up being Reyes winning the first 3 rounds and Jones winning maybe the last 2, and everyone being super mad because the third round will kind of have a 3.5 minute of Reyes winning, and then Jones starts to turn it around, and it's an arguable Jones win. That's what I think is going to happen.
I don't know. I look at it as a split decision or unanimous decision for Jones, because I don't think he's going to want to play where Reyes is good at, and Reyes is not good enough to press forward. I know Jones is not the best there is, but at the same time, who have we seen him compete against? Reyes, Chris Weidman. But before him, you would be hard pressed to find someone that has a depth of skill. Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that Reyes has faced anybody like John Jones, but I also think that Reyes has kind of been working on a set of tools, not all of the tools, because I think a really strong boxer along with the rest of the Fight Side crew when we discuss it and all that stuff, but a really strong boxer would probably be the best suited to taking out Jones, because Jones really has garbage boxing, especially his defensive boxing.
No, his boxing is bad.
It's real bad.
Pure boxing is not great. As a kickboxer, he's pretty good. His shot selection, his variation is very, very hard to get a beat on the guy.
And I think that's more to do with light heavyweight just being bad.
Yeah, but I mean,
look, it's the second worst division.
I know. I know, but
I want to specify it's the second worst men's division, because if we're throwing women's in there, then women's featherweight's worse.
I think that's gonna change soon.
I don't think that women's featherweight.
Yeah, I mean, shit. The best strawweights are leaving.
I said featherweight.
I'm sorry. I understood wrong. I listened wrong. I thought you meant
What the fuck are you talking
flyweight. No, I flyweight.
No. I'm not talking
No,
about
you
flyweight.
said featherweight. Look,
No.
featherweight is like, is there a division? There's like 4 people.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think, yeah. Women's bantamweight's probably as bad, but like whatever. Anyway, let's move on. Well, speaking of women's bantamweight, we're going to talk about a former women's bantamweight because Alejandro demands that we talk about this fight, which absolutely will be the fucking worst. I don't know why he wants to talk about it. I don't care about it. I think.
Hey, I like Shevchenko.
Why?
I like her style because
Why?
I don't know. I just like someone to be so completely dominant sometimes.
So, I know what it is. You're horny.
No, it's
You're
Antonina
one
that
of
makes me.
those. You have a separate account that you use just to reply to her pictures, don't you?
Oh God, that's just creepy.
But it's
no,
true.
That would be untoward, sir. But
she is the least interesting champion.
Yes, but she's just so good at so little. Like the
she's
things
so
that she's
good at 3 things, and those 3
Yeah.
things are enough to beat the rest of her garbage division, aren't they? And that's what you find interesting? The fact.
No, I mean no. The fact that she's so good at those 3 things that she can fight a division above and give problems to Amanda Nunes. That's what I find interesting.
That's because as much as I love watching Amanda Nunes, she's also not a great. Like she's fine. Like from a technical standpoint, she's meh. Her athleticism and power and speed, like she's not great at a lot of things. She's great at ground and pound. She's a really, really strong top player, but like also she has bad cardio striker? And she's a solid. Like she is not a good striker if we compared her by the technical standards of lightweight or featherweight. Men's.
Okay, but she's okay.
I'm saying there's a sliding scale. Like if you compare Nunes to her division, yeah, she's up there as a striker. Then you say, okay, but if we just from a pure is she a good striker standpoint, she doesn't compare to people who are actually good strikers. Justin Gaethje is a much better technical striker than Amanda Nunes.
But in that case, then you can't even compare Joanna with those guys either.
I don't.
Well, okay.
I don't. I'm saying
that's the whole argument. That is the whole argument.
I always just create 2 boxes: compared to division, compared to good. Like that's all.
It's always like an idealistic take. Okay,
it's not even idealistic. It's just
it is.
It's more. No, you're misunderstanding me. It's more of a just like, you know, when they like talk about when Joe Rogan or any commentator will talk about how, oh, this fighter is the best striker in their division. Well, that could be meaningless or it can mean a lot. It just depends on the context that you're looking at it from. Amanda Nunes is absolutely the women's GOAT. I think she's the greatest women's fighter of all time. What does that mean if you were looking at her? Like if you were going to show someone, hey, look how awesome this fighter is and how technically skilled, you're not going to show them Amanda Nunes. If so, like, that's what I'm saying. So you're never going to show them anyone at women's featherweight or bantamweight or flyweight or strawweight. The best and most technically skilled fighter, probably the 2 most, are probably what, like Rose from a pure technical standpoint, and who? Weili Zhang, but Rose also suffers from serious deficiencies that cause her to fall apart and cause her she's not able to keep it up, and that usually falls down to her cardio, I would say, more than anything.
Yeah, she has the Conor problem.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Like bless you, Bella. By the way, I'm holding my daughter. So I think that's important to kind of just note. But anyway, yeah, Valentina Shevchenko's awful. Caitlin Chookagian is going to give us a volume Kia kickboxing show, and I'm going to hate every moment of it.
I mean, it's hard to have a conversation where you just say, like, when you say these things, because it's like, why are we even talking about them? Because there's not, like, why are we even covering, like the women's divisions at this point, right? Like if there's if there isn't anything good to comment on. Like,
Well,
on its own merit. Why are we even mentioning it?
I think that's kind of an issue that isn't addressed enough. Is that I happen to actually enjoy watching women's MMA. I really do. And it's one of the things I kind of get teased about by some of the Fight Site guys, where they're like, "Why?" But I enjoy it. I really do. I think that women's fighting is just behind in terms of development it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It's not as old as men's and the men's mixed martial arts, and it makes perfect sense that it's behind. I think that it will catch up once the UFC unionizes. But correct. I mean, listen, Bernie Sanders, you bastards. I don't know why.
Yeah, after the fucking fraud they threw at him.
It's not even announced fully, but whatever. I think that's so
shitty
crazy.
Fraud. Look, I know a fraud when I see one.
Oh,
okay.
100%. It's nuts, but we can't talk.
No, let's not talk about that. Look, I'm not criticizing. Hey, man, if you need to win, you need to win.
I'll put it this way. I will never willingly watch a Valentina Shevchenko fight with the intent of I'm going to enjoy this. I can watch a Rose fight. I can watch a Gadelha fight. I can watch a Jessica Andrade fight, even though I know she's not the most skilled fighter, for lack of better terms. But I also absolutely love watching Jessica Andrade fight. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love watching. I like watching Joanna fights. I like watching Michelle Waterson, even though I kind of like it because I keep hoping she gets her ass kicked. Not because I don't like her, but because she's still a Jackson Wink person, and I hate all of them.
What happened to you, man? What happened to you?
Jackson Wink is the most overrated camp ever, and I think it's fucking absurd that they're still considered good. Like even Derek still goes by this like he keeps saying he attributes GSP's decline to leaving Jackson's. I'm like,
no, he got better after leaving Jackson.
I was like, what are you talking about? Faraz Zahabi is a way better coach than Jack. And Zahabi has his flaws too, but there's no doubt he's a better coach than Jackson Wink. Like Winklejohn sucks.
Well, Winklejohn, because Jackson, I think, has taken a step back.
Yeah, it's only Winklejohn at this point, I think. But yeah, I know you want to actually talk about the fight, so I'll let you have the floor.
Nah. Yeah, you just killed all my excitement for it.
Good. That is exactly what I wanted to do. Like, let me pose it to you this way. Do you understand my antipathy towards this fight?
I understand your antipathy, but at the same time, this is the kind of thing that you have to learn to appreciate.
Why?
Because it's someone doing some incredible, awesome shit. Like, I mean, it looks awful, right?
Hold on. Is it though? There's definitely some shit being done.
There's not.
I don't know if I want to call. I don't know if I want to call
high
it
level, the level of skill present in what Shevchenko does. You cannot just sit there. Oh God. Okay, we're done.
I don't really. She is heads and shoulders above her competition. I hate the fact that she absolutely refuses to do anything that requires her to be like, I'm going to put myself in. I'm going to do something.
Why take risks? Why take risks when you can not take risks?
I'm not talking about risks. I'm not talking about risks. I'm not talking about not taking a risk. GSP didn't take risks, but he was doing stuff. He was never just standing around watching his opponents. He would jab. He would shoot takedowns. He would ground and pound. He would do something.
Yeah, what you should be looking at is the fact that she doesn't need to do that.
I don't think it's that, but that's what I hate. She's fighting people who can't even force her to do anything.
No, she's just that.
And
good.
when they do, they get knocked out with a head kick in a round.
Oh, for Jessica.
Okay. Look, I'm not saying that I dislike Jessica Eye. but
No, just
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
well, you finally saw Shevchenko do something.
And it was nice. It was nice to see her do literally anything.
Uh,
Look, if Shevchenko actually did stuff, I would be less critical. It's just she doesn't.
but she does. You just don't find it entertaining.
What is she? But okay, I don't consider like lowering your opponent's outputs to the point of like where the Carmouche Shevchenko fight was a fucking disgrace.
Look, do you find Floyd Mayweather fights exciting? Like
No.
interesting at least?
No.
Okay, we're done. No, we're done.
You asked if I found them exciting.
Or interesting at least.
It depends on the fight.
We're done. Guillermo Rigondeaux. No, we're done. No, we're done. We're moving on.
No, Rigondeaux I don't enjoy watching as much as I enjoyed Floyd. Because at least Floyd's opponents thought they could win.
Okay.
No, again, like it does depend on the fighter. Like I didn't find certain.
Let's move on to Mirsad Bektic beating the crap out of Dan Ige.
I don't think he's gonna beat the crap out of Dan Ige necessarily.
I mean, you should.
But he's also Mirsad Bektic, and he's probably gonna get knocked out in the third round.
Yeah, with the super powerful punches from Dan Ige.
Yeah, no. Dan Ige is
the crazy athleticism of Dan Ige.
I really
the amazing
think
grappling of Dan Ige.
I didn't say anything about his grappling, but I do think I don't think you
Mirsad,
can. Hold on. I don't think you can so easily dismiss Dan Ige. The dude's coming off a win over Kevin Aguilar, which is not a bad win at all.
Look, he was struggling with Aguilar. I mean, he won that fight clean. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say
obvious that he won. Like, but do you think that Bektic cannot exploit what Aguilar exploited?
Yes, but
does he hit harder than Aguilar? Is he faster?
Bektic also not gas and not get cracked.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's because he has been cracked twice by people that are commensurate athletes.
It's not just that.
Just incredibly durable fighters that are amazing grapplers.
Did you just call Darren? Did you just call Darren Ige a dynamic fighter, or am I mistaken?
No. Darren Elkins, you mean? And yeah, when he's getting his ass kicked, he's his most dynamic. I mean, it's true. It's true. I know it sounds horrible, but it's true.
The funniest fucking thing.
I'm sad now. Why you make me say these things?
That's
but it's really true.
It's really funny.
You can't deny it.
But it doesn't make it less funny. Look, Mirsad Bektic should win. Don't get me wrong. Mirsad Bektic actually should win. It's a matter of whether Dan Ige can knock him out.
But he's been knocked out twice by a dude that hits super fucking hard, and
Darren
Elkins, who is just like a human like dust cloud where you see like punches and legs, like hands and legs coming out, like that's who he is. So that's what has ended him before. Like if Dan Ige finishes him, like there's like a legitimate problem. But so far, I mean, he's lost 2 fighters he ought to lose, considering his skill set.
Well, I mean, the only loss he has is to Julio Arce, which is not a bad loss. Julio Arce is really good.
Do you find Dan Ige's grappling or wrestling on the level of Darren Elkins, or the pressure that he puts?
No, of course not. But I also don't know. But wait. But Dan Ige is also a far better athlete than Darren Elkins.
Well, of course, that's my point.
Right.
Wait, what? Dan Ige is a better athlete than Darren Elkins? I'm not sure.
He's faster, more powerful, more explosive. Like, I don't understand.
Is he?
Dude, I don't know if you remember who Dan Ige is.
I just watched him fight. It didn't quite look impressive to me. I mean, he's good, but he doesn't land with a ton of power. In fact, he hit, what's his name? He's a Latino guy. The last guy he fought, he cracked him a bunch of times and couldn't finish him.
Kevin Aguilar,
yes.
Kevin Aguilar is very tough.
I know, but if you're gonna, we're talking about cracking someone, and he did it quite a bunch of times in that last round. Like, he's not exactly a finishing threat, even when he has you hurt.
I mean, he's finished most of his fights, so.
No, but we're talking about someone that is well schooled, that is as Mirsad Bektic.
Yeah, but like again, Kevin Aguilar was 17-1, and that was like he'd only been finished by Leonard Garcia.
Yeah,
Leonard Garcia. Did you not hear me say that?
Yeah, he punched him hard.
You don't? Do you remember Leonard Garcia?
I remember he hit pretty fucking hard, but three straight shots.
That's about it. No, I'm just saying it's fucking.
The three straight shots to the head have to do something commensurate.
I'm just saying it's fucking funny that he lost to like Leonard Garcia, and this was not even like Leonard Garcia pre-UFC. It was Leonard Garcia after getting released by the UFC. Well, and then Leonard Garcia apparently went on a 3-fight win streak. I didn't even realize that. And one of them was Kevin Aguilar.
Well, point against Ige then.
I think. Listen, I'm probably just arguing for the sake of arguing. Yeah, Mirsad Bektic is gonna win. Probably.
I mean, he should win, because if you would just want to revert everything to, well, Mirsad Bektic is still Mirsad Bektic, and something weird is gonna happen to this poor man, maybe.
Yeah. I also think it's probably safe to say that Mirsad Bektic is not gonna be an elite contender just based on his consistent issues.
But it's happened twice. Just twice.
Yeah, but he's also had, like, he's been rocked before. If I'm not mistaken, he's been wobbled a few times. And he also just isn't fixing his punching mechanics either.
Yeah, Firas Zahabi was supposed to help with that.
Hasn't really, because he ended up getting knocked the fuck out.
Yeah. He's been a while at that camp, too.
Yep. Baby, no. Okay. Last fight I think we could discuss is Lewis versus Ilir Latifi. If only because I'm so curious to see how this human fire hydrant Ilir Latifi looks at heavyweight. I'm gonna let you go because I'm gonna give my child back to my wife.
Okay, so this fight, a lot of people may not be aware of this, but in Mexico there is this tradition that is, quite inhuman, called cockfighting. And you get it's played with roosters, right? So you get your roosters, you put like blades on their legs, and you let them go at each other. And what often happens is that it is very ridiculous thing where one of the two roosters ends up extremely injured, and then he dies at the end. Most usually because he ends up cut and whatever. And for whatever reason, I can't help but think about this when I think of Derek Lewis against Ilir Latifi. Ilir Latifi is a very large man, but he's still kind of small for heavyweight, so I don't really know why he's there or why he assumed he would have success there. But he's there nevertheless, so we're going to see him get potentially injured by Derek Lewis, and it's probably not going to last very long unless something weird happens, which in Derek Lewis fights usually takes longer to happen, like at the very tail end of the fight. But here, I don't see how that happens. I don't think Latifi has the reach. I don't think he has the athleticism even. Maybe he has wrestling. I mean, I hear... Ben, you there? He's not there. Anyways, now that I think about it, Ilir Latifi has some wrestling background, so he could potentially make use of that, which would be amazingly funny if he somehow takes Derek Lewis down and just holds him there. His takedown defense is not exactly up to snuff. But other than that, he should lose. He should lose horribly, and it should make a lot of people sad and wondering whether he should still be fighting.
I'm back.
Yeah, so I just finished comparing Ilir Latifi versus Derek Lewis to cockfighting.
What?
Yeah, well, yeah, like I try to say, like, we actually have cockfighting here in Mexico. It's been outlawed in a lot of places, but not in a lot of, but a lot of people don't pay attention to it. So it's basically these roosters fighting. Like you blade them, you give them blades, and then you have them fight, and then it always ends horribly. And that I cannot help but imagine that that's how Ilir Latif is gonna go down, unless he chooses to wrestle. But how likely is that? You know what I
Well,
mean?
if we know one thing, wrestling Derek Lewis makes you very tired. And if we know another thing, Ilir Latifi doesn't have a gas tank. So
Well,
if he wrestles with Derek Lewis, which I think we can assume he will,
he has to try something because he doesn't have reach, he doesn't have power, technique, maybe. He has to do the thing, the one thing he knows how to do, and that's wrestle. Could he take him down in open space, though?
who's the last person Latifi took down consistently?
I don't remember. Honestly, what I remember of Ilir Latif is usually him getting his ass kicked, knocked out, and him on a horse.
That picture of him on a horse is
Glory.
fucking hot.
Yeah. Like you see this lab of a man in this black and white background on top of a horse, and all your problems go away.
Well, one of two things is going to happen.
Latifi is gonna take Derek Lewis down, which
either Latifi is going to land a massive overhand right and just,
flatline Derek Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. Or Latifi gases out and gets flatlined by Derek Lewis.
Yeah, I mean Derek Lewis couldn't get hung up in there, hung with Mark Hunt for a little bit. He took a bunch of hard shots. I don't know how Latifi is gonna muster that.
I don't see. Latifi's also not the most iron-chinned dude.
No, he's not.
Neither is Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is not the most durable guy.
He's getting bombed by heavyweights, though. Like,
I don't know, man.
Heavyweights that hit hard.
God damn, this card really sucks.
We should have had like Ilir Latifi versus Junior Dos Santos. Like, I could see Junior winning that and just feeling happy. But no. Why is this fight card this way? Like,
what the UFC has really not been putting on the best cards, have they?
No, they have not.
Anyway, this has been the episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Fucking excited.
Yeah, I hope you guys are excited for the fight card.
You know what we should do?
Yeah.
We should have a section, like a fucked up section, where we just read what someone on Twitter said in MMA and just fucking make fun of it. It may be funnier than this.
Hey, we're hilarious. Fuck you.
Yeah. Wait, when we have something to talk about. Instead of that, I'm actually thinking about cockfighting. I'm not even sure if we have outlawed it yet. Completely, I mean.
What'd you say?
I'm not even sure if we have completely outlawed cockfighting.
That's great. That's good to know.
Oh shit, there's videos on YouTube. Better not go down that rabbit hole.
Definitely don't do that. Anyway, thanks for joining us. I've been your host. We really lived up to our name.
Yeah.
All right.
Have we though? I don't think we have angst enough.
No, we don't. We angsted last week, but I feel like this we even topped it. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.